Hey, welcome to Wine Talks here with Paul Kalemkiarian. Wine Talks is available on Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, and iTunes. You know, always sponsored by the original Wine of the Month Club, and today we are launching or have launched the Pure Wine series of the Wine of the Month Club, where you get organic and biodynamic wines tasted from hundreds, tasted each month. But we have a very special guest today because we're going to talk business today with one of the oldest friends in this business. I've been doing this for 30 years. He's probably been doing it longer, maybe not quite. But we met years and years ago. This is Alex Guarachi from now Guarachi Partners, right, Alex?
Guarachi Wine Partners,
Guarachi
right.
Wine Partners.
Yes.
But it wasn't always like that.
No,
How many names you've had?
It used to be called TGIC Importers.
That's right.
And I've been in business, I think, longer than you have.
Okay, that hurts.
34 years.
Wow, that is longer than me. So Alex is a wholesaler. Alex is a distributor. He's also a manufacturer now. We'll talk about making wine in Napa. But originally, you're from Chile, Argentina.
Correct.
Chile, right?
Chile.
And my father featured some Chilean wines in the 80s, Gato Negro.
Yeah, that was from us.
Was it yours,
Yeah,
really?
it was mine.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. That was,
okay,
I think
okay.
it was, let's see, 80, I was...
It was like early 80s, probably.
Maybe.
Maybe 85, 86?
We used to import San Pedro.
Oh, the San Pedro.
Yeah, San Pedro. San Pedro owns Gato Negro and Gato Blanco and those things.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to young Alex then and say, you came to this country when?
Let's see, in 1976. I don't tell anybody when I came because I don't want anybody to.
Now you just told dozens of people.
Right, exactly. Well, I just don't want people to do the math.
Oh.
I came to the U.S. on a soccer scholarship.
Really?
So, right, and I was ready to play professional. I wanted to be the next Pelé, you
oops.
Name it.
And how'd that work out?
Well, not so much, because I went to San Jose State. We had the best record in the nation. We're number one in the nation. We're in the middle of the playoffs. I was ready to sign a contract, and I got an injury. I got a hairline fracture on my outside metatarsal.
I did not know this.
You know?
Yeah.
So a few months later, I graduated, and then I said, well, what do I do now? And I decided, I had a good friend of mine that loved wine. You could not find South American wines. You could not find Chilean wines in California. You can find a little bit here and there in New York or in other places. So I said, came up with this brilliant idea. How about importing Chilean wines? My friend said, okay. He had the money. I didn't have any money. I was broke. So we brought the first container, and you can imagine selling Chilean wines in 1985.
Yeah, no way.
In the backyard of the California wine industry.
Yeah.
I was living in Palo Alto, Mountain View, San Francisco.
That's where you were?
Yeah, that's where I
And
was
you were
living.
trying to sell Chilean wines.
Yeah, exactly.
This was not the thesis from Harvard Business School,
no,
now was it?
Exactly, no. All my friends said, you're nuts, you're crazy, what are you trying to do? But it's interesting enough, and I might spend a little bit, because when I came to LA, that's when things really turned around. And that's when you and I met.
So when you were up in San Francisco and you had this container of, let's just say, I don't know how many varietals you had there. You had a couple.
It's only two.
There's only two. Okay.
Yeah.
And you were out going to the restaurants and going to the stores trying to sell this stuff.
Correct. I did it all.
Did you get rid of the whole thing?
No. It took me. It took me.
I still have some.
Yeah, maybe in my library.
Okay, so then you came to. Why did you come to LA? Because you thought maybe better market.
I was at that time. I was living in San Francisco, in Twin Peaks, and it was bloody cold. In the middle of summer, it was like, I don't know, 60 degrees, and night it was like
we're not used to that,
50.
chilly.
And then my friends in Los Angeles say, well, it's 95. And at the beach is 80, mid 80s, and I'm thinking, what am I doing here? I love warm weather, and
sure.
And I said, business is not going well. I'm working out of the garage. Well, I can move to Southern California and continue to work out of the garage.
So, but you brought in this container. I want to everybody understand. Okay, you have to pay. The winery's not going to give you credit, right?
No.
So you have to buy. It was a 40-foot container.
It was a 20-footer.
Oh, 20 footers. So you're talking about 600 cases probably.
No, I brought in 1,100 cases.
In a 20-footer?
In a
No
20-footer,
pallets.
no pallets.
That's risky in itself.
Yeah, exactly. Not only that, I had to unload my first couple containers.
Oh, no.
Alone. 11, but I was in pretty good
What do you
shape
get for
because
that?
I'm playing
50 bucks an hour?
Yeah.
So you've paid for this wine. It's landed in the dock. You've got to
Yes.
get it to a bonded warehouse, not bonded warehouse, but with a warehouse license to store it.
Right.
And you got to pay for that.
Yeah.
And so 1,100 cases is a lot of wine to try and sell.
Yes.
So you've got money tied up in this.
Absolutely.
And you've got to pay the rent, and you've got to, you're by yourself, right?
Yeah, by
So you got to
myself.
pay gas.
And my partner. My
partner.
partner was a silent partner. But he
No,
loved wine.
it's impossible.
So he helped with depletions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Other than
Yeah, we
that,
have to
that
know.
was
We have to
it.
remember depletions. We want to get rid of this stuff at any cost. Okay.
Exactly.
So, but you sold. What was the primary market? Restaurants.
No, retail.
Retail.
Restaurants, especially at the beginning, they just thought, like, God, Chilean wine, forget about it. All right.
Really?
Retailers, they had
Yeah,
wines from other parts of the world, so it was easier. But I mean, back in those days, many people, they just didn't know where Chile was.
So you
or
were you
Argentina.
had to educate these people.
I was a pioneer. I started importing Chilean wines and really introducing Chilean wines to the U.S. market. Started in California. I mean, the press never wrote a piece about it. I was the first one to get a wine.
So
the
what would
Wine
they say? When
Spectator.
we walked into a restaurant, I've got this gato negro,
Yeah.
with the little cat hanging on the thing.
Yeah,
the plastic
right,
cat.
right, exactly.
Would they say, like, just look at you with cross eyes and say we're not interested,
Well,
or they
you know,
at
I
least
mean,
taste it?
Yeah, well, great question. I mean, I still remember one of the guys said, "Where is Chile? South Africa?" And I said, "Well, the south part is right."
Come on,
But it's-
seriously?
Exactly. It's just a different continent. But they will look at me and say, "Yeah, the wines are okay, but I don't think, I don't know if I have a market for these.
Yeah.
I don't know if nobody's ever asked me for a Chilean wine." So
Boy, well,
no,
that's,
thank you.
so
And I tell you,
that's-
it was so difficult
Yeah.
because when you get negative reaction and people they're not interested.
You weren't a
And then-
salesperson by trade.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah,
so I
you're
had
not
to
used to this.
learn
Yeah.
how to sell and how to deal with rejection.
Yes, that's what it is.
And I read every single book about personal growth because I knew that the only way to get through this is, hey, I gotta accept. How do I accept rejection? How do I keep coming back when they're telling you no, 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 and no? Then I figured out that every time you get a no, you're closer to a yes.
That's right.
So
5 no's. That's the
I know.
average, right?
Exactly, or more. But,
Well, that's fascinating. So
yeah.
now you've got your teeth. You still want to pursue this. So you put your toe in the water and you're like, oh, this is really fun.
Yeah.
After getting my butt kicked all the whole time. And you come down to L.A. Did you bring in a container then, another container, or did you now bring on? And I think we bought. I forget, what did we buy? Santa
did Santa Emma.
Emma. Yeah.
Santa
So
Emma.
when did you now? Oh, this might work. I've sold something. Maybe people
Yeah.
are interested. You came to L.A. What happened?
Well, it's in Los Angeles, there is a much bigger diversity of cultures, and back in those days, when you think about it, there was no one dominant wine industry. Other, some domestic, but other than Santa Barbara and a little bit of these, but there was nothing really big time like in San Francisco, right? So people were
Yes,
more
different.
open to Chilean or Argentinian, and then New Zealand and Australia. Look, in 1985 when I started, there was basically nothing in terms of imports.
Yeah.
It was Rayo Neri, it was Montes,
Lancers, Montes.
Lancers, and that's it.
Yeah.
A little bit of French, a little bit of
Liefraumilch
this, the
from
other.
Germany.
Exactly. There was no Australian wines. There's no New Zealand wines. There was
That's
none,
true.
no Chilean. I mean, Chile was exporting to the U.S. around 40,000 cases. Now, it's close
Who
to
knows?
7 million.
Yeah.
Right? So, and the same with Argentina. People didn't even know what Argentina was. When I told them about Malbecs, because I've started with Malbecs and Argentinian wines a few years later. And people
Which are now they probably always have been world-class wines. The character has
Yes.
always been there.
Correct.
There's an interesting comment though, but you said about Southern California and the diversity. I'm going to take it down a little tangent. There was a book written by a black lieutenant in the Air Force, Lieutenant Tolliver, and I met him at the airport of Burbank. He was signing books, And so I bought it and I read it, and it's a very fascinating book. And he was at the time of racism in the South. That's where he
Right.
lived, and he lived with racism every day.
Right.
And when his parents moved him to L.A. in the Southern California area, he goes, it was void of all racism. It was such a multicultural environment. We felt no
Correct.
stigma at all.
Yes, absolutely.
And I can see that in industry too, in business too,
Yeah.
that we just, we're this mixing pot of things.
People that were more open to try.
Yeah,
You know,
but
I
the
mean, it
California
was
wine
not-
industry had sort of gotten its traction then,
Yes.
but I believe at that time still, the Chateau Montelenas, the Dave Stairs of Dry Creeks, even the Warner Winiarskis were still sort of schlepping wine in the Southern California market.
Yeah.
They were still driving it down here. There was no real distribution network.
Yeah,
fine
no,
wine was
not.
still sort of taking off. So when did you expand the brand options? When did you go back to Chile and say, okay, I need some more of this stuff? What am I
Well,
gonna do?
so when I moved to LA, I moved with a friend of mine, and we had a 2-bedroom house, 1 bathroom, and a garage. So I was back in
And
the
a warehouse,
garage.
you mean?
No, just a garage.
No, that's the warehouse.
Right, that was the warehouse. So without air conditioning or heater
of
or
course.
nothing. And I remember when it was 100-degree weather in Studio City, because I was living in Studio City, termites would come out.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. I mean, but it's little by little, I started to increase my distribution in California, in Los Angeles. And then one state at a time. I started with Massachusetts, and then Michigan. But it was
Wow.
very,
you started
very
on the East Coast. You were
yeah.
how did you
Well,
do that?
I met the owner of Classic Wines
Oh,
in
yeah.
Massachusetts at the Vinexpo.
The Francie brothers.
No, it was Frederick.
Oh yeah.
You know,
I remember
Frederick?
him. Yeah.
So we met. I was in Vinexpo trying wines and learning and maybe trying to import some other stuff. And he was there, and he told him what I did. And he said, well, let me taste your wines, and let's see what we can do. Taste the wines, loved them, and it was my
So
first
you were in Classics
distributor.
book originally?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, back in, I
For
don't
how
know
long?
when.
Well, I remember
we,
that.
We
They
always
had a
been
great
there.
book. They had a
we
huge
always
book.
been there. I'm talking about Classic Wines in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, in Massachusetts. not the
Massachusetts.
California.
So we've always been with them.
Yeah.
Always.
So they're still there now.
Oh yeah. And then so it was one state at a time, and one case at a time. And I still remember when I sold you that container.
Yeah. So you came
know?
into the wine month club. That was in Monrovia, so it was
Right.
still late '90s when I moved there. So you'd been running for 15 years by then.
Well, I moved to LA in '92.
Oh, okay. So
The
about-
day after the riots.
Oh,
The
good
Rodney
idea.
King riots, exactly. Welcome to Los Angeles. So, and I think I met you maybe a year or so after.
Mm-hmm. I moved. We were in the other location in '80. Well, I was in Redondo Beach until '88. Then I moved to Arcadia '89. Then I moved to Monrovia in '97.
So it was Arcadia.
Yeah.
That's
So
where
it started
I
in
met.
Arcadia,
Right.
right, yeah.
And I remember when you bought that container
Yes.
from me, and at that time, that was my biggest sale. And I think I made $4 a case. So I was living on $2,000 a month. Here I made $4,000 in one sale. I said, oh God, thank you,
This is a
Lord.
real serious
This is
business. That might be a really
oh
business
my God,
now.
I'm making some real money now.
That's fascinating.
It was always amazing.
I remember it was the Chardonnay. I don't remember buying that much of it, but that's the way the
I know. I
business
think
has
you did it.
changed.
You bought a
I
container.
only had 2 clubs then,
And
so
yeah, I forgot the price, but it was pretty.
it was probably around
yeah,
$3 or $4 or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway.
So I remember you told me you walked out of the thing. Wait a minute, I'm
Yeah,
actually
well,
a
like,
real business.
woo, I'm telling you.
So, but it was
yeah.
still TGIC then, wasn't
Yes,
it?
at that time was TGIC.
And how many brands do you think you had then?
2 or 3.
Okay, so now I want let's peel back the business side of
Yes,
this. You have to.
sure.
You're still probably on a COD basis, or you probably had a little credit with the wineries, or no?
At that time, it was all COD. COD or CAD, cash against documents.
Yeah. Okay.
And
really?
then, but Santa Emma, they trusted me and they gave me 90-day terms.
Wow.
So I used the money, the sale of Santa Emma, to pay Montes at that time. But it's always playing catch up.
Yeah, always.
I just tell the East to pay the other way.
And how many?
Borrow from Peter to pay
you were
Paul.
if you were to guess, then 1997, 98, how many wholesalers do you think were in the state? leaving Southern California?
I would say probably, I don't know, 30 or more.
Oh, yeah, probably like 50, I would say.
Yeah,
at that
maybe
time.
50,
I didn't
correct.
see a lot of them.
Oh, they're all gone.
Yeah,
I
they're
mean,
all
now
gone now.
what you see is two massive companies.
But
Southern
it grew.
Glaciers.
It grew to a lot of small ones.
Back then?
Yeah, I'm talking about like, let's say now early 2000s.
Right.
It probably was, I don't know,
Yeah,
100
yeah,
or 200.
yes. I don't remember how many wholesalers at the time.
Because we still had
Because I was doing it direct. So I was competing with everybody
Yeah.
at that time.
Oh, so you had a distributor in Massachusetts, but not one here. You were doing
Correct. I did it my own here.
Yeah.
I worked briefly many years ago, 30 some years ago, with the Henry Wine Group, and they didn't do anything a whole year. And so whatever business I was doing, I was giving to them, and they were just collecting the money.
I think that's.
So I said, you know what? Why should I do this?
Why are you wasting your time?
So what I did was I said, okay, I'm taking my business, and I did the billing and selling and delivering and put the POS and accounting. I mean, everything. Everything.
I don't think, and this is part of why I wanted to have this conversation, because the margins aren't great, right? I mean,
Yeah.
back then, if you made $4, you're probably buying it for $30. I mean, you're making 10 or 12%, maybe something like that. I don't
That's
remember,
right, yeah.
Right, and you're out there, wearing holes in your shoes, and you're getting rejected, and you're paying Paul to pay Peter,
Yeah.
whatever. You're robbing Paul to
Yeah,
pay Peter,
right.
to just patch it over. And I don't think that's changed that much in some of these startup wholesalers, because it's such a difficult business, and you tie up so much money.
That's right.
And it's even more complicated today than it was.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, you want to expand. That costs money. And I had a vendor come in the other day. And I know this feeling because I went through it myself in my software company. But a vendor came in the day, goes, "Hey, you got that wine coming in next week. Is there any way that you can pay me COD?" I said, "Why?" He goes, "Well, we're just a little strapped for the cash flow this month." I said, "I know exactly where you're coming from. I'll do that for you. Don't make a habit of this now, but
Yeah.
I'll do it for you."
Good man.
Because it's hard. It's such a tough business.
It's tough.
And I think it's harder now than it was back then.
Yeah.
But you said it. You had to do everything.
Everything.
You were
from
making the sales.
Put in the once I made the sale, went to the warehouse, got the wine, and then put in my truck. And I deliver the wine, and sometimes even I price the wine at the store. So I built the relationship as well with not only with the buyer, but with the guy working the floor. So they always saw me bringing the wine, delivering the wine, putting the wine on the floor, pricing, dusting the bottles. So, so I was a good supplier.
Now, why do you think this business ethic? You're a sports guy. You're a soccer player. You wanted to be in that realm. This business ethic, was it from sheer desire to be successful, or like just to make sure that you weren't out in the cold one day?
I think all of the above.
A little bit?
I think to me, it was either I make this happen, or I don't know what the hell I'm going to do.
So it's just your own sheer grit.
Yes, I think that I sort of, when sometimes I open my refrigerator and there was nothing there, it was empty, or an old bottle of milk.
Big
Then
clumpy
it said,
milk.
I
You
got to
poured the
make
sink.
this happen. I got to make it work. This is, and I had invested everything I had.
Yeah. So you
So,
wanna
and
lose
I
it.
also believed that it can be done. I believed not only in myself, but I believed that, good wines, they do have a place on Americans consumers, and everybody's looking for a good bottle of wine at a good price, and and I thought, wines from South America, that's what they offer.
I think that you learned a valuable lesson about yourself, that you really were truly a sales guy in the side, because us salespeople, which I've always known that's what I was, we can take a dozen no's, but that one yes is that gambling, that snake eyes, craps roll
Yeah.
that just makes you feel like you've got 100
King.
more no's in you
Yes.
to go after before you get to the next one. That's the
That's
way
right.
you feel. It's
Yeah.
just that you've accomplished something, and you got somebody to think the way you think, which you are confident is accurate and true.
Right.
And valuable to the other
It's
person.
a great feeling. Sale is just a great feeling. And not only you feel like a king, but also you understand that you're on the right track.
Yeah.
There are people out there that do believe in you, that people are going to drink your wines. And then say, well, if you multiply that by many, many folds, you're going to sell a little bit more wine, and maybe you make a little bit more money.
Maybe.
Exactly.
Not in this business. Well, because we'll end up getting to today's environment because it's so much different than it was. But
Yeah.
So you were selling to Santa Emma.
Right.
Did you have the Montes line then, which is a very famous brand?
Yes, right about the
that
same time.
Are they related? Santa Emma
No.
and Montes?
No.
Okay.
Different
So,
appellations.
I remember the Montes brand coming in. You had Alpha and you had the other tiers, and they were great wines.
Yeah.
Did that change much for you? Did it make it a huge difference to the marketing of the brands, or Montes was as well unknown, so you were still schlepping it?
Montes was founded in 1987, and we started the year after. I mean, just about.
Really? So it was new.
So brand new.
And why would they do that? Was that they were looking for
they were
worldwide?
working for San Pedro. That's why I met them. That's how I knew them. They're all working for San Pedro, and San Pedro was broke. Back in those days, all those wineries in Chile, they were all
San Pedro.
they were all
That's amazing.
bankrupt.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, so they started, but their philosophy, and I helped them to do that, it was, look, there's plenty of Chilean wineries that make a lot of volume, make a lot of wine inexpensive. We're going to make better wines. We're going to use better oak treatment. We're going to age our wines in barrels, and our white wines in stainless steel tanks. Because back in those days, all white wines in Chile were oxidized. And we loved them because that was
That's
it.
what it
We didn't know
tasted
any
like.
better.
That
We
was
didn't know
your
any
taste.
better, right? Exactly. And it went great with oysters.
Yeah. So wait a minute. But why then? Back then, and maybe it's not the same now, but why were they so inexpensive to manufacture? Was it the cost of labor? Was the land that cheap? Or
Right.
was it-
Well, most wineries, especially the ones that have been there for centuries or many generations, the land is already paid for. And labor, especially back in those days, was kind
Pretty
of
cheap.
inexpensive. Yeah, cheap. And so the cost of producing was not that expensive. Now, if you add to that, some wineries, they produce a lot of fruit. So, as you and I know, that if you want a great Napa Valley Cabernet or Bordeaux, it's gonna be 2 to 3 tons an acre.
Yes.
But when wineries, I don't want to name any wineries, but when wineries are getting 14 to 20 tons an acre,
Wow.
then they get very diluted wines.
Yeah.
So, and that's why you can sell it for so cheap.
So back then, what would you pay ex-sellers for a case of Chilean Cabernet? Something you remember?
I mean, I think I know that some people were selling it for $12 a case,
Okay,
$1
so
a bottle.
$12 a case, gets on a boat, lands here, tax paid. Now what are we at?
Let's say 11.
Okay,
to be, or 10,
But how much to get
80.
it here and land here in
It's
ex-sellers?
it's about $8.
Okay, so now I'm into it. Let's say
case.
$20. It's sitting
A
at the
case.
dock in Long Beach.
Yeah,
I'm into
right.
it for
It's
20
bucks. Yeah, right.
And I don't remember. The
Yeah, it's
cost
almost
back
as
then.
expensive as a wine.
Yeah, right. So you end up wholesaling it for, even if you sold it for $30, you're making 50%.
Yeah. And then
Margins are pretty good.
The
Not like that
margins-
anymore, but they're pretty
right.
good.
But they were pretty good. The only thing is that it costs more money to go out and sell it and promote it.
Right, then you gotta
and,
store it.
and store it and then sit on it, because many times I had to sit for a while before I sold it.
I had a couple come in here. I haven't seen them for a couple of years, but they came here quite frequently for a while, and I felt so bad for them. They came to me for advice. Originally, very cute couple. She was like a Hispanic anchor in Vegas, and he was a handsome guy from Riaxis Viaje in Spain. So he said, "We have access to family wines and things. How do you think we should do it?" I said, "Well, find an importer, bring in a small quantity, test the wine. It's the wine I liked very much, but don't get too excited. Right? Just let's a little restraint, live on less margins,
Yes.
cut people in on it, and see if we get it." Well, I didn't see him for like 9 months. They came to me at that time, and they said, "Well, we did it." I go, "What'd you do?" They go, "Well, we bonded a winery, we bonded a warehouse, and we got our importing license, and we brought in 600 cases of Albarino."
Oh.
I looked at him. I said, come on, Albarino. There's 600 cases, and you don't have any clients, and no one's ever heard of this brand before, and you wanted good money. I said, you're gonna have a hard time, So then they come back in a month. Well, the price is down now, and then like 6 months later, the price got down to an acceptable level, and I bought like 60 or 80 cases or something.
Yeah.
They still had like 520 cases left. And I said, this is I don't know what dream. Particularly on the import side, but we're going to get to the manufacturing side. But on the import side, what dream someone has, as you did, and they get slapped in the face when the reality sets in that you're only one person that's walking in this door trying to sell me stuff, and what's going to make it stand out and make it better.
Yeah.
It sounds like your perseverance and your work ethic and your quality. I remember the quality of the wines was very high for the value. The value I remember was very high at the time. And we weren't afraid of that.
I think, people like San or Montes, it was more money than some of the big wineries that were selling for $12 a case. When I said $12, is some of those big, large wineries.
When did you bring in then the domestic wines? Did you in the portfolio?
As a wholesaler or as an owner and producer?
Wholesaler. Did you ever have? You had Napa Girl and.
Yeah. So I started that. I bought some fruit in Napa and Sonoma, and I started making a few little brands.
Yeah.
And we came up with the Napa Girl, and there was
Q
another
or
brand.
C or something. C.
Yeah.
Crescendo.
Crescendo.
Yeah, right.
Crescendo. And there was fruit that we bought, and that didn't do great, but we did okay because we had some clients. They were good. They were good. It's just I don't think the packaging was right.
The Crescendo packaging was kind of weird.
Yeah,
weird. But so before I get to that, actually I should have not fast forwarded so fast. You ended up then now it's no longer Alex. Alex has a few people out down the streets.
Right.
I remember a couple of the reps, Simon's, whatever his name was.
Yeah, Simon.
Yeah. And so you got to at the TGIC was still TGIC. How many? What was the crew like? How many people did you have on the streets?
Well,
how many?
The most we got was about 15 people in Southern California, 15 people in Northern California.
Selling.
So
that's great.
We brought other than that our portfolio of imports. We added some domestic and other importers. We had.
So then you added a layer, though. You added a level.
Right.
By bringing some distributors in.
Right.
So
So we became a wholesaler for wineries,
Yeah.
domestic wineries and others. And then so we had my own team selling all our imports plus some other domestic and other wines from other importers
we went
like
from
OPG.
We went from Alex standing on the dock, waiting for the boat to pull up.
Yeah, exactly.
So he could unload the container, and now we've got 60 guys on the street. You have all the support. You've got warehouses. You got ingress and egress and cross docking and all this stuff going on, right?
Yeah.
So big difference now.
Big difference.
And you're at the helm.
I am.
You're pulling the strings.
Yeah, I am.
And you're like, oh shit, what did I get into?
Yeah, exactly. Well, when I started Guarachi Family Wines, that's my own winery.
Yeah. So when did that
in
start?
Napa? So in 2007, Paul Hobbs and I we always been friends because he's been working in Argentina for a long time.
Yeah.
So he worked with us and we worked together, and we were gonna do something, make a wine together, but that never happened. So one day I said, Paul, I'm tired of waiting. I want to do my own deal. Will you help me out? Will you help me make the wines? And he said, yeah, okay, great. And I asked him, well, what is it going to take? And he said, a lot of money. Oh, great. So
enough time and enough money, you can do anything, right?
Exactly. So I said, well, how do we start? Well, you got to start with a brand, and that was Crescendo at that time. And he said, Crescendo is not good. Use your own name. Guarachi. I said, well, I can barely pronounce my own last name. What would I say?
Why would make the customer do that?
So actually, I got to give Paul credit for calling my own brand Guarachi Family.
That's better than Kalemkiarian.
Well, Kalemkiarian is tough to say too.
That'd be a tough one.
So we started buying fruit. So from Andy Beckstoffer, and so that's where we got our Cabernet, and we got our Pinot from Gap's Crown in Petaluma Gap. So 2007 and 2008, first crops, first vintages we made, and then we did very well. We got a big score in Wine Spectator on the Pinot.
Let me peel this back a little bit. Let's get a little more granular. So you decided you have this bank account full of cash, and you're talking to one of the great consulting enologists in the business, Paul Hobbs.
Yes.
And you decide you're going to need some grapes, right?
Right.
So you don't have any contracts that you
No.
bought yet.
No.
And so you're looking for just tonnage.
Right.
To things. So what happens? Do you use a broker to do that, or did you use Paul Hobbs' connections to go find it?
So Paul Hobbs knows a lot of growers.
Of course.
And he has a team managed by Julian Gonzalez that made all his wines, the Paul Hobbs wines, consulting. So he was working with like 10 wineries.
Yes.
So he already had fruit sources in Napa and Sonoma and other places. So we basically said, okay, how many cases do you want to make? I said, okay, how about 500 cases?
Let's just pick 500.
500,
That sounds like a good number.
Cabernet and 400 Pinot Noir.
And that equals so many tons.
Exactly.
And then you buy the tons. And
We
you
bought the
put them in a
ton.
truck.
Right. Yeah, I forgot, but
They truck them somewhere.
Yeah, they truck them to his warehouse, to his winery, and the wines were made
start crushing
by his team at Paul Hobbs Winery.
Wow. Okay,
So
that's,
that's
the first,
how we got started.
the first vintage of Guarachi
Right.
Partners.
Yeah,
Guarachi family vineyard.
Right. So the next, I got a big score, 94 points, by Wine Spectator. Next year, that fruit that we were buying for Pinot wasn't available because they loved it. They kept it for themselves.
Uh-huh.
So I said, the only way I'm going to control my own destiny if I buy my own vineyards.
Right.
What a great idea, right?
Yeah.
So I did a couple years later, and I bought Sun Chase up in Petaluma, which is the highest elevation vineyard, Pinot Noir vineyard in Petaluma Gap.
Really? Wow.
And we are about...
and that was the juice I just tasted.
yes,
Because that's
yes,
gorgeous
tasted.
wine.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So, and then a year later, I bought
This was a planted vineyard already.
Planted vineyard, right. It was about 7-8-year-old wines at that time.
Wow.
So now they're about 14, 15.
Yeah. So they're healthy.
Yes.
And 7 or 8, just on the cusp of beginning to give you quality fruit, right?
Exactly.
So you're making so it's only Pinot and Cab right now.
Only Pinot Cab.
All right.
And
So now you've this is fascinating because you stepped into that part of the business, which is a whole different,
Totally different.
learned thing to learn, right?
Oh, yeah.
The cost of manufacturing is so high.
You become a farmer overnight.
You become I was playing soccer 6 years ago.
Exactly.
I'm a farmer.
Yeah, I'm a farmer. I know about sales and marketing. I'm not a farmer.
So are you in the vineyard?
I go there a lot.
So, and you have a vineyard manager, of course.
Yes.
Okay. So
Yeah.
a lot of conversations I have with winemakers here is that whole process. Is this an organic vineyard? Sustainable?
Sustainable.
Yeah.
Yeah, very
So
sustainable.
you're looking to do sustainable. Are you looking to be organic?
Well, no, it's too
too hard,
complex. It's too hard. It's
But
too
you try
expensive.
to minimize the touch points
Yes.
in what you're
Yeah.
doing, right?
We really, it's perfect. Everything is there. It's so clean. It's so perfect.
Yeah.
And the wind and it's just like breathing pure oxygen.
So here's a fun scenario. Now you've got how many sales guys do you have now?
Total in the U.S.
Yes.
About 50 total.
Really? Okay. So now-
Salespeople and people in the back of the
Yeah,
office.
back house.
Yeah.
So what happens in the big houses like Young, Southern, even Wine Warehouse? They've got this huge book of wines, and the sales guys are spinning their heads. They can't even possibly address all the wines that are in their book, right? So in comes the proprietor of the brand or the importer and says, "Hey, we're going to send you to Hawaii if you sell 10 cases of this the next month or 20,
Right.
whatever the number is."
Yeah.
And so I have this vision of you. You've got your book of Montes and Santa Emma at the time or whatever else she
Right.
had, but now you've got Guarachi Family Vineyards,
Right.
and you want them to sell that. So you go to the
Right.
sales meeting, your own sales meeting with your own
Right.
sales guys and say, "Hey, I'll send you to Hawaii
Yeah.
if you sell my stuff."
Well, yeah,
And
that's
the other
about.
stuff.
That's about.
Because you're
But
competing against yourself
About
almost.
5 years ago, I think, I don't know if I should say this live, but we went with Young's Market. And
Yeah, that's okay.
I'm sorry to say, but it was not a good move.
Well, I don't think
There are
that
two-
experience is unusual.
They're huge companies.
They're huge.
And unfortunately, the wholesalers in America have consolidated, and they are getting
lot.
bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And they just announced Young's Market merging with RNDC.
That's right.
So there is going to be two
Huge.
large companies in America, period. So all the
Glazer
all
Brothers,
this-
Southern, and Young's RDC.
right, exactly.
So, what happens now? I mean, and I see this every day, right? And I have vendors come in saying, I don't know what to do. They're taking on Scotch and bourbon and vodka because the wine sales are getting their ass kicked by the fact that Young's and RDC are big and co-brand, and the big suppliers are coming and saying, I'll send you to Italy if you'd sell this.
Yes.
And so everybody else in the book gets lost.
Everything gets
Right?
lost.
Everybody gets lost. And so that's why.
And they have huge quotas with the big companies. We're talking about Bacardi, or you're talking about Jose Cuervo, you're talking about Brown Forman. Huge companies, huge spirits, the $billion deals. So who are they going to sell? Guarachi family wines?
No, exactly. And I think,
Jose Cuervo.
but my attitude is something has to break, because on my side I get all this crap coming from Europe and the consumer's confused. They're buying Groupon wines for $3 and they get it and it tastes bad. At the same time, when you go to the market, you go to Ralph's, Vaughn's, Albertsons, that their wine aisles now look the same.
Yeah.
There's nothing different. They used to be
Nothing
different.
different. It
There's
used to be
nothing
different.
different about it, but because it's kind of like trying to sell toothpaste against Procter and Gamble. You're just not going to do it. So for a Guarachi family to get a good spot on a market shelf is almost impossible. Right?
It's very, very difficult.
So you're into the
absolutely
restaurants
right.
now, trying to get pours.
Absolutely right. Yeah. And the reason why they look similar is because the grocery stores are dealing with these big companies, and these big companies are pushing those wines
Right.
that are
They can
owned by
bring it in.
large conglomerates. And Gallo's become one of them. And Gallo now is buying
Huge. I don't-
37 brands from Constellation. So right now,
37 brands.
37 brands.
Big brands.
So today, Gallo alone is 28.5% of the total wine consumption in America.
Really?
So now with the 37, it's going to be about 36, 37%.
That's amazing.
That means more than 1/3 of the total wine consumption comes from Gallo produced or Gallo owned.
That's
So
phenomenal.
one out of three bottles
That's phenomenal.
is Gallo.
Yeah, I don't think the public generally knows when they
They
look at the
don't.
shelf how much of that
No.
is Gallo. If you were to consider, when I stocked the shelves of my dad's store with Gallo, that was like not very good wine. Now they have premium brands, and we can't.
Yeah, they got all.
We're not
going
gonna diss that, right?
No. They got great wines and they got so wines.
But
they're huge.
to get market presence. So I see more consolidation at the winery level now. There's Vintage Wine Estates and all these guys that are scrambling to build this group, at least to be semi-competitive with
Yes.
with Gallo and Young's. I have a funny story though. I went to a golf tournament. This is about 7-8 years ago. My fraternity from SC, and it was it was attended. It wasn't very large, and I was talking to one of the guys in my generation. He goes, "Oh, you ought to go talk to so and so. He's in the wine business." Oh, great. I don't know who the guy is. Okay. So the guy's standing in line to get his food, and I said, "Hey, I'm Cal. I'm from class of 1980, and I understand you're in the wine business. What's your territory?" He goes, "I own Young's." It was the Underwood.
That was Chris?
Yeah.
Chris Underwood?
And I slunk away going, I went back to my friend. I said, "You idiot. You tell me you own the company." This is like the major player. This is before the merger.
Right.
So I one of the reasons I wanted you to have this conversation with me is just that you were saying a couple weeks ago when we were together that one of the big brands, and this is an important part of our business, one of the big brands that you built, that you brought into this country, that you schlepped on the streets, you wore holes in your shoes trying to get this stuff out there, and this is not uncommon in our business. They leave you.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say there's no loyalty, but they move to
There is none.
They might think
There's
it's the
no
next
loyalty,
level.
right.
There's no contracts really.
Right.
They just say it's time. We think it's time to move on. Maybe it's just for a fresh face. Who knows what the reasons are? But they do that.
Right. Well, I mean, we built Montes from nothing.
Yeah.
And
Zero.
And it took obviously many years, but from 0 cases to 150,000 cases at one point.
Wow.
And then 60, maybe
Wow, that's great.
160,000 cases. So they made a lot of money. We made some money as well. I mean, I'm not going to say not, but the business itself, we're talking about consolidations. We're talking about big companies getting bigger, and distributors having too much on their plate, too much on the book, and too many priorities. Brands like Montes and others getting lost in these big books. So this Chilean industry has been a little soft lately. So
I think everything's a little soft. but-
everything is soft. So what happened is they blame you. Hey, no, we're just a messenger. And we will go and talk to our distributors. Distributors say, listen, we're trying our best, but they weren't trying.
Yeah,
So they've gone with a bigger company, hoping that that's the answer to their problems.
Yeah, it's not.
But it's not. I mean, we've done a lot of business with a lot of great accounts, including yourself, and it's become a lot more competitive. Look, when I started, there were a handful of wineries from Chile.
Yeah.
Today there's 600 labels.
Oh, there really?
600.
600. I see a lot.
So I'm sure you see a lot.
I see a lot.
So what happened is that now, when we were in 2010, we became Importer of the Year.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah. We became Importer of the Year, and because of our
Wow.
success with Chile and Argentina. And I don't know that was good, bad or ugly, but it seemed like the day after there was all the Chilean, all these Argentina wines
right.
coming out of the woodwork.
Well, no,
So-
but you know what? You're probably right, because the press is so important in this industry.
incredible.
It makes and breaks brands and
Yeah.
breaks and breaks industries. But it's interesting you said about that. It's soft. I've always considered the Wine of the Month Club as this sort of litmus test of what's being sold in the market, and a little bit behind,
Right.
like maybe 60 to 90 days behind the trend, because I don't see much Australian anymore.
Yeah.
But at some point there was Penfolds and Rosemont and all those guys that were
Yeah.
players, and then they dried up.
These huge.
Lindemans.
At one point, it wasn't like 10 or 12 million
Yeah.
cases.
And then
they've been dropping for the past, I would say, I don't know.
I don't
8
see any
years.
of them.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
None of the
Yeah,
brands, none of the small importers are bringing it in.
Yes.
Same with South American wines. I see this rise in Argentinian, and I see this fall in Argentinian. I see this rise in Chilean. I see a fall in Chilean.
Yeah.
So when I was in New York to see my daughter, I'm interested in expanding my knowledge base, as we talked about in the Master of Wine program, potentially, who knows. But I went to the Moldavian table.
Oh, yeah.
And the Macedonian table. I never see those.
Yeah.
Now, this tasting was about wineries across the world that want to come to America. They don't have presence here, so it's a huge uphill battle. I'm thinking to myself, okay, your wines are pretty good, but I don't know unless you have an Alex Guarachi on your side who's willing to go wait by the dock and bring in, hand truck the wine himself.
Yeah, right.
I don't think you've got a chance.
Yeah.
Because of this consolidation of what's going on the wholesale side, and guys like you who are still entrepreneurial, who are still bringing great values to the industry, and are entrepreneurial enough to say, I'm still going to do this, because I think a lot of people are just saying, you know what, this is too hard.
And also, you think about not only consolidation is happening at the wholesale level, but also at the trade level. Think about Safeway just got a couple years ago got bought out by Albertson. Albertson
That's
is
right,
owned
yeah.
by a private equity firm, and so you got Albertson Pavilions, Bonds, Safeway, all owned by one company.
And what are they going to do?
And then you got Kroger with Ralph's and these. So it's just there are 2-3 players in America. Period.
It's an interesting thought. That's a huge thought, because the volume of wine those guys go through is, get 6 bottles, 10% off, whatever. And if they want their business as streamlined as possible, so they're going to reduce. And this is an example of why some of those wine shelves are starting to look the same, because they want to deal with less vendors. And you've got to find, for instance, there's a restaurant in Manhattan Beach called the Arthur J. My wife and I go there regularly, and have one of the most sophisticated lists I've ever seen for a wine list. And I asked the somm, I said, you must have 75 vendors just to curate this. He goes, no, I have 100. And, well, what's the expense to that? I mean, you've got 100 checks to write, 100 employees,
Sure.
however many vendors want to come see you,
All right.
wines to taste, menus to print, change the vintages, whatever you're doing. That's an expensive proposition.
Sure.
To carry wines from so many different suppliers,
Sure.
right? When it's so easy to call
To just
Young's
and
get
deal
this,
with it, right?
and they'll pay for. One of the things I didn't bring up, they'll print your menu for you. You put enough of their wines.
Absolutely.
Do you do
and
that?
Maybe I don't. And they do other things.
Yeah,
I can't
right.
say in this conversation, but
I wonder if we can. I wonder if you're going to offer trips to Chile.
we have. We have.
Oh, I have. I've never been.
We done. You haven't? We gotta
You know,
go.
it's funny. All these years, and I've been invited many times to Chile, Argentina, Australia, and I've never gone.
Never?
Never gone.
Wow. You
and
gotta
they,
go.
And they never invite the spouse, of course, because they're working trips, right?
Right,
We're gonna
yes,
go and
yeah.
you know. So
Educational trips.
I accepted one for Bordeaux this year.
Oh, good.
So
you
August
go?
31st
Oh, you
for a
going
week with the winery called supplier called Duclos. That's all I do is classify growths and some nice wines, and I'm looking forward to it. I've been studying French anyway. I'm looking forward to like immersing myself in the culture and just doing the wine thing and coming home.
That is great.
Without any vacation. Just
Yeah.
I'm interested in the intense concentration of tasting and
Yes.
evaluation. So we're excited about that. You know, we could probably talk, you and I, we always have for hours anyway. And I'd like to bring it back, and we'll take it to the next level on this conversation. But it's been a huge pleasure having you here again, Alex. And
Thank you. Likewise.
It's fun to be with people that understand, you know, what this industry's been through and what we've both been through all these years.
Oh, yeah.
And there's more exciting things to come.
Yeah.
It's going to change again.
I hope so.
And
But one thing, and I'm sorry for interrupting, but I mean, you and I love this business.
Yes.
We love wine. We love what we do. And that's why we're passionate. That's why we do it. You know, even though it's got a little tougher, but we're still fighting. We're still going.
It's all about passion.
Yeah.
And now you get to be passionate on the manufacturing side, which is a whole level of passion that's exciting.
Yes.
You know, I bought 60 acres in Paso in 2004 or something.
Did you really? Oh,
yeah,
excellent.
on the hot side of 46.
Oh, fantastic.
And that's the year that they had they just didn't even pick because there was so much, there was such a glut of grapes.
Yeah.
There was just too many grapes. If you didn't have a contract, they just hung there, right? You got noble rot. And
So you were one of them?
No, I never planted it because the land was, I think I paid, I don't know, it was very inexpensive, a few thousand an acre, and it was like, you know, 20,000 an acre to plant the thing.
Oh,
right?
yeah,
So
right.
I wasn't going to do that. And then I decided, you know, I don't think that's my lifestyle. You know, I wanted to retire in the wine world, like up there.
Sure.
Ended up selling it, buying something at the beach,
Yeah. Oh, there we go.
which is where I grew up, so it's okay.
And you're closer too.
Yeah, so that's only 35 minutes anyway. Pleasure having you, Alex, and I hope to see you soon. And good luck out there.
Appreciate it.
Talk about some wines to bring into the house too.
Super. Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.